Hello YouTube and what's good, and welcome back to episode 2 of 4 Locals, 4 Decks. So, this has been an amazing week. I've had so much fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Last week, and we got some really amazing decks to show off and talk about today. But before I do that, I just want to say, if you want to see these decks before they are here, please follow me on Twitter. NelsCorpIGO on Twitter, and yeah, I pretty much post all my deck lists here of what I do at various locals every week. So let's jump into the first deck, and this deck's pretty cool. Let's zoom out a little bit. So I guess you call this one branded Hero. So what is this deck trying to accomplish? Well, we're just really trying to use a Hero Lives, Mask Change to make Dark Law. But you can also hard make DP, which this week I've prepared a little replay just to explain or to show what I mean by that and how these two kind of work and synergize together. So a simple 2-card combo, Branded Opening and Shadow Mist. This can be many different formulations of this. So the Branded Opening will discard the Shadow Mist. For the Alubar, search Vion and Branded Fusion. So it's interesting in this deck, you're kind of using Vion as like a substitution for Patchwork and Edge Imp, but I don't really know if that's better or worse, because I think Patchwork is definitely better, but this is more fun. So yeah, you go ahead, you banish Shadow Mist, you get Poly, you search Branded Fusion, and then the difference in this one is you use Branded Fusion to send a Denier, because you'll send Melee off Vion, and then Denier off Lubellion, and then you kind of get where this is going. You have to discard another card in your hand, not too bad. Make your Mirror Jade, then go ahead, Mally and Denier effect, summon them to the field, and then Poly hard make the dead DPE. So that's one of the main things that this deck is trying to go for, these weird, obscure, hard make DPE lines. But I guess let's just jump into the card by card. So the 3 Shadow Mist, I think it's just good resource management. You can always trigger it if you draw it. It's really good. Stratos, 2 Vion, the Dasher, Celestial, Mally, and the Denier alongside a Pharos over here. So the addition of Pharos will simply be because if you don't open Branded Fusion or Branded Opening, there are some lines where you actually want to make Chimera, and then Pharos can really help you do that, you know. Summon Vion or summon Stratos, search Pharos, pitch one of the cards in your hand, and go ahead and do so. So yeah, likewise, the Adlib, the Alibers, the Tragedy, Albaz, Snow is just a bit too good. I don't think you need to play 2 Tragedy. I definitely could cut it down, especially because not playing Allure of Darkness. 3 Branded Fusion, 2 Branded in red, Hero Lives, Mask Change second. This is in the deck mainly to prevent Alubar from being hand trapped, where you can turn a Despia monster into a Dark Law if you want to. Rodak, playing Heroes, Kobai Foolish, Polys, Super Polys, Talents, Fusion D. The Despia Theater, Monster Reborn is here mainly because Trigger Shadow Mist, Trigger Stratos again, quite good, and 3 Branded Opening. My initial thoughts on this deck is because maybe Hero Lives might come back to 3. And if it does, you might see Hero Lives being splashed in many other combo decks as like a mini engine, as it used to be before this card was limited. But, you know, simply put, simple interactions, you can always fuse any of these monsters in your hand for pretty much anything in here. What I'm not playing is you probably should play Elemental Hero Escuridao and maybe the Mighty Dragon of the Swamp, because those cards are quite good at unbricking the hands that you may have bricked on, where you can just fuse Tragedy in any hero for the Escuridao, for example, which is quite good. But yeah, other than that, very simple like card economy deck. You're ending on very similar boards to the regular Branded Despia deck, but instead you have Mask Change. And I felt that this deck was really solid, really good. Definitely should cut down the deck size, and probably should include Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness is pretty damn strong. And I can especially see here in this deck, with even more dark monsters. Side deck, nothing too special, pretty standard. Extra deck, you can definitely play the Master Anki if you wanted to, go more aggressively, but the extra deck just gets so tight. I mean, maybe cut Anaconda, but it does come up quite a lot. But I highly invite anyone watching this video to really give this a shot. I know that I have a friend of mine who's actually playing a more heavier hero build of this, and there's arguments to play Liquid Soldier, to draw 2, discard 1. I even thought of using Dark Fusion and a Dusted Gold, because a Dusted Gold is a light monster, and Dark Fusion fuses for any fiend, and the Despias are actually fiends. So I thought that might be a funny idea to try in the future. Not really, but definitely this deck's something to look at if a hero lives goes to 3. Definitely possible. Alright, so onto the second deck I played. So this one this one was really strong, crazy strong, and so much fun. I guess you would call it branded Adventure Despia Shaddoll Bads. But I guess the main idea of this deck is, well, everything triggers Shaddolls. So branded fusion, branded opening, the adventure engine. Everything triggers the Shaddoll effects. Shaddoll fusion can just be really good to break boards. Also keep in mind, this is actually a blind go second deck, so I'm going second every single game, trying to break their field. So I guess there's a little bit of a card by card analysis. So I'm kind of I do side out one Squamata, one Hedgehog quite a lot. Like, you don't need to play 2 here, but I just like to have the higher ratios, because you kind of want to see like one of these in your hand, because just with Guardian Chimera you just get insane chain blocks. It's so good. Perform Mage Engine, simply because we increase our light count, so we can make Construct more often. Again, these always overperform for me every time I use them. Like, just getting more monsters on the field for Chimera is often enough. And then, standard Despia branded stuff, standard adventure stuff. I did choose to include the incredible Ecclesia, one in my main and one more in my side for where matchups is more appropriate. And this card really overperformed as well on the day. Really helped me break boards. So I might be playing more of this in the future in other branded Despia decks. Not too sure, but it's definitely overperforming. And then 3 Shaddoll Fusion and the L Shaddoll Fusion. So you don't need to play this, you can kind of cut it, but it's good to have the option there. But like in this deck, Shaddoll Fusion is so strong because you play the Water Shaddoll monster, which essentially allows you to foolish your Water Enchantress straight out of the deck. So often if Shaddoll Fusion resolves, it's like you're accessing your adventure engine and you're accessing any Shaddoll effect of your choosing, which the options are quite vast. You have your back row kill, your graveyard banish, and your effect monster negation. And then often you don't even need to go into that. You go into, App Cologne, and well, Shaddoll Fusion, Genius, Drag, and App Cologne is 2 effect monster negations and a back row kill and a free monster, which is just nuts. It's so good. Like against Sword Soul, if they don't have Ash, like App Cologne forces both of the synchros to like go, and then your dragon can pop the blackout. So you just trade especially well against decks with Shaddoll Fusion. I will note that against Adventure Despia in particular, or against like some Despia boards in general, they can just banish their own Mirror Jade to play around Shaddoll Fusion. So it might not be like the be-all, end-all best card in the game at breaking boards, but it definitely has its place first rogue decks. Like if you run into Tri-Brigade, or if you run into Sword Soul, this card will overperform, I do think. Definitely. And then Super Poly in this deck is even stronger, as we have the the full suite of Shaddoll monsters. And then I guess the other thing unusual would be this Schism. The Schism is just here in case you can't break the board. Sometimes there's no way possible that you can win, you can just dump it off Construct and then reset it to hopefully have some kind of interaction on your opponent's turn. But I will point out, Guardian Chimera in this deck is just particularly strong and particularly savage, simply due to the vast volume of chain links that you get to protect it. And I want to have more of a card discussion on Shaddoll Beast in general. We'll see that in the next profile. And then the side deck was like kind of standard, but also kind of bad because I never really started in Gamma. Like, you feel like your main deck is just so good at most of the meta anyway. Like, a lot of cards here feel redundant. Definitely probably more quick play spell killers. Like, I'd rather play Twin Twister and Cosmic than, like, you know, Lightning Storm or Pank. Just because of people are playing anti-spell and lots of face-up floodgates. Can be quite annoying to play through. Also, before I forget, this hero deck, I went 2-2 at that locals. I feel like I should have done a lot better, but that locals was pretty hard, and yeah, I feel like I could have done a lot better. I played this deck so badly, I remember. I also played this deck really badly, but I actually went 3-1. We had a weird number of players, so I did tie for first because everyone lost, but the game I did lost was like really unrealistic. But I felt like I also played this deck really badly. So it's like, the problem is like playing so many different decks and like trying all this whack stuff out. It's, you often like don't play decks optimally, and you struggle in the first few matches and games, and then only after the fact you realize like what you should do and what you could improve on. And then I don't really play the same deck again unless I really like it. I actually played this deck back in like February, I think, but that was before Despia. That was just Shaddoll Adventure with Guardian Chimera. That was a sick deck. So this is one of my favorite decks of the year, I would say, so far. Just the whole poly patchwork, Shaddoll Chimera stuff. It's really sick. But definitely room for improvement, but this felt so crazy good. Okay, deck number 3. So this is probably the more serious-minded deck I had. I went 4-1 at this locals. I barely lost the last round, but it's kind of one of those awkward rounds where it's like, I could win, he could win, time was getting close, it's just whatever, you know. You take the loss. So this deck is more like building on the Allure of Darkness theory from last week, and then this is getting really popular now. Lots of people are on this, but I also really wanted to try Nadir's Servant and the Dogmatika cards, and I also wanted to try Beast again and this branded Retribution card, because I was playing against someone and they completely savaged me with this Retribution card. I was shocked how good it was, so I'm like, might as well try it, might as well give it a shot. So my thoughts on this deck was, again, holy moly, Allure of Darkness is powerful. It is so good. If you're playing this deck and you haven't tried like the Allure through Merc into the Shadow Dragon into the branded sword, you definitely need to. But I will say, like, I didn't draw the Nadir Servant enough. When I did, it was average. I don't think this is a good card to play in this deck. I didn't really like these, but I will say I really like Shaddoll Beast. Like, even in a pure deck, I just like drawing more, because there was a side deck game where you allure, you beast, and you Shadow Dragon. You draw 6 cards on your opening turn, and I had Anti-Spell Debarrier. Like, I drew into my floodgates. I drew into my most potent interactions, and just consistent theme I've had playing these decks is that I lack monsters, I lack resources. There's a lot of discard effects, and Shaddoll Beast is that guy, man. He helps you out. He helps you out so much. So I might continue playing this card in the future. Like, you don't even need to include the Winder. Like, Winder is not that great, honestly. You have to play it really skillfully in the mirror matches if you want it to be effective. In fact, like, I mean, Schism in theory is better than hard making a Winder off the Lubellion or the Albion, because at least Schism can send an opponent's monster like in a really good spot, making it harder for them to out it. But yeah, so pros of this deck: Allure, Beast, negatives, Dogmatika, and yeah, I mean, like, maybe if there was a YCS tomorrow, I would play this, but probably just cut the Dogmatika, cut the Nadir, play 3rd Patchwork and 3rd Edge Imp, and then probably just go. Like, it's really solid. I really enjoyed the Retribution. I really enjoyed that card. If you don't know what it does, it's a solemn warning, but I like the recurring effect from the graveyard. Like, this deck grinds so well. I might play more Albion, I might play more Albas as well in the future. And I like playing the Beast, and I made like a Shaddoll Fusion for fun. But again, I really enjoy siding this. But again, better versus Rogue. Not 100% mirror match, but versus Rogue, so sick. Like versus Sword Soul enemy, I'm very sorry, you know who you are. I red rebooted him into Shaddoll Fusion and it was just devastating. Like these two cards broke everything he had going for him. He's like 3 back row, he's 2 synchros, they were just blanked. Completely blanked. And he only had Ghost Spell, he didn't have Ash. But by that time, that Ghost Spell was effective, I searched Mercuria. Like I already had it in my hand. Because I drew into it with Weather Beast, and then I drew into it Albion, and it was nuts. So you definitely start seeing more of this deck. Allure, Allure, Allure. Really crazy card. And the last deck. This was probably the most surprising, the most fun. Like if anyone uses this against me, I'm going to be very upset. Which is Despia Dino. So why? Because if you fuse with Quoteless, if you send it to the grave, or you know, Lubellion, you can discard it with Branded Opening, you can send it to Branded Fusion. There's a million ways of triggering Quoteless to add Pill. So that's nice. But also we know that if we banish Mercuria or Tragedy with the Pill, we get card advantage. So I didn't really figure this out, but I started doing it when I realized, oh, I already have Pill, or already have Quoteless. I'm just going to send Mercuria with my Fusion, and then banish Mercuria to get more card advantage. And this deck puts up the similar end boards that the other end boards do, but you put Quoteless up. I think Quoteless is better to have than the Conductor in most cases, because, you know, you don't really have Omni Negates or any negates built into this deck in general, so it's good to include. It's good to put that on the field to just give you some blanket protection. But holy moly, like I bricked. So the first round I played this, I bricked. I went 3-1 playing this, and then in the next 3 rounds were just like 6 turns. It was just I OTK, or I set up like double Masquerade one game when I went first. Finally, I lost all my dice while I was playing this, but that was totally fine. Just because like the amount of pressure this deck puts on before you activate Branded Fusion is why it's so strong. Like, if you see them like trigger Quoteless, get a Pill, it's scary. So I really hope that no one uses this against me. Again, in this extra deck, I really should have the Mud Dragon of the Swamp, so I can, in case I brick, you know, in case you have to fuse, you know, Edge Imp and Quoteless, you'll be able to if you drew like that. Very unlikely, but it is to happen. And then I started playing Twin Twisters because I realized, you know, how many floodgates are going around, especially in the Sword Soul deck. That deck is really annoying with their floodgates that they're choosing to play against fusion decks. But I think you got to bump it up. You got to play more of these, less of this, more of this. But I also like playing Dark Ruler, and especially in this deck, because when you go second, you can just have a Conductor wipe everything. So, you know, you got to keep it simple sometimes. And of course the benefit is you get to main Pank. Like maining Pank is always fun. There's definitely a world where you cut down on some of these normal summons and you put in like Oviraptor and stuff, because he's also a dark that you can Allure of Darkness banish. Miscellaneousaurus, not too sure how much that guy would come up. You know, Animadorned is a light monster, maybe it has a place, don't know. Will I play this as a deck again? I think absolutely I will. I actually want to delve deeper into this idea. And also, I guess Super Poly for me has just been getting more and more lackluster. Like, don't get me wrong, it's insane in mirror matches, but I've been playing it less and less, like maybe 2 main deck, 3rd side deck, you know, over here as well. I mean, this is a different idea, but yeah, I'm just trying to turn away from Super Poly, and I found it working out like really, 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 really good. Like, it's not that great, but rather have it than not have it, I guess. So, that concludes this week's episode of 4 decks, 4 locals. I hope that wasn't too long or too ranty, but these decks are really cool. I'm just like so happy to show off these decks because we need to get them out. And I'm really glad that a lot of things are catching on in the world. So, you know, it validates me as well as validates you, because that means we're all on the same idea, thinking the same things. So yeah, comment below, subscribe, let me know what you think. Let me know if I'm a fool, if I'm an idiot, my deck builds are awful. Again, I know they probably are, but my main objective is I'm trying to test a vast number of cards, and believe it or not, sometimes playing more than 40, more than 50 allows you to test faster. Controversial opinion, but I think it has some valid points. Anyway, thanks guys, bye bye.